All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are scheduled to speak with Dinesh D'Souza, and I'm sure that he will be joining us momentarily. One of the things we'll talk about, and until then, and I'm going to read this to you because this is breaking on Drudge, and it's an exclusive from the Daily Mail, the London Daily Mail. Hillary Clinton, remember she was at the coffee shop yesterday. Remember she stopped at the coffee shop to order a coffee? Well, that was, according to them, a completely staged event. And I'm letting Dinesh D'Souza know this now. He joins us. Dinesh, Hillary Clinton Tuesday morning visited the coffee shop in LeClaire, Iowa. It was staged from beginning to end, according to one of the men pictured sitting at the table with Hillary. This guy named Bird told the Daily Mail Online that Clinton staffer Tony Price called and asked him and two other young people to meet him Tuesday morning at the restaurant. Price then drove them to the coffee house to meet Clinton after vetting them for about a half an hour. Why would anybody be surprised? Why would anybody think that if it wasn't staged, it would be a shock?
Well, I think this has become, of course, part of the way that we do politics in this country. But I think it's a deception that is being put on the American people. Because for people who are watching, they're going to think it's a little bit like when you open the newspaper. You think that's what happened in the news yesterday. But you don't realize that a whole complicated process of selection of photographs and headlines has gone into the New York Times, a selection of what is the news. And so similarly here, you've got all this stagecraft that's being presented as if it were natural. I think, of course, in the case of Hillary Clinton, you could say the same thing about a lot of her recent life, because the Clintons have put on a kind of public show that is so different than the real way in which they live.
Yeah, well, that's obvious. I mean, that's always been the case. So let me ask you, the coverage of Hillary, from what you think of her. I mean, I couldn't be more shocked at that announcement. That video I thought was pathetic.
Well, I think it's actually remarkable. You know, first of all, just look at the strangeness. If someone were to come to America from Mars, they would notice right away that one party, the Democrats, have one candidate. It's basically an elderly white woman. The Republicans have 10 candidates, and they're young, they're dynamic, they're ethnically diverse. You've got immigrants, you've got women, you've got the whole spectrum, the whole range. And so right away you see a kind of anomaly, a difference between the two parties that's very palpable, impossible to ignore, and yet you could go on from one network to the other and no one's saying a word about it.
Yeah, well, that's true. All right, but you know, we're not talking, not we. When Rubio announced, when Cruz announced, when Paul announced, right away they jumped on him with one thing or another. In Paul's case, it was the interview with women, and in Rubio's case, it was you know, whether it's you have no experience or you're on the wrong side of gay marriage or whatever. And if Cruz, of course, is the most evil person on the face of the earth. But when Hillary announced, all of a sudden, the ongoing scandals, the questions about the emails, the questions about the foundation, that's out the window now.
Well, I think we've got to realize, I mean, those of us who are on the conservative side, that with the media, you're not basically looking at a mirror, or you're not looking at a glass that is transparent, that is looking at politics. You're looking at a kind of periscope or refracting lens that's going to constantly give us a spin and a kind of twisted view of what's actually happening. The media is now part of the political process itself, and it's probably a weapon that the Democratic Party is counting on for 2016.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this. Do we have candidates, do you believe, on the Republican side, unlike Romney, unlike McCain, that will be willing and ready and able to fight that?
Well, it's a supreme challenge. Reagan, of course, had a particular ability to transcend, go over the heads, if you will, of the press. Not an easy thing to do, to be able to, in a sense, communicate, you might almost say telepathically, with the American people through and against the wishes of a lot of people in the press. He got the better of Sam Donaldson in a number of exchanges, for example. So whether there are now successors of Reagan who can do that remains to be seen. Well,
it's something that I believe that they are going to have to do. Otherwise, you know, and how about the gender factor? You know, Rand Paul already said, I'm not going to treat her differently because she's a woman, because to do so would be sexist in and of itself.
Well, I agree with that, but I also think that the Republicans need to be savvy about the way in which race and gender politics plays out in this country. Remember, of course, when Hillary went up against Obama, she tried to play the gender card. She sort of played, you may say, she pulled out the queen, and then Obama pulled out the ace, which was the race card, which trumped the gender card, at least within the Democratic primaries. They're going to be playing all this politics in a very big way. The first black, the first woman to succeed, the first black, and Republicans can't be blind to the politics of that.
Absolutely. All right, stay where you are. We're coming back with more from Dinesh D'Souza. Lots to talk about. Iran, Cuba, Obama, and more. Don't go away. All right, we're back with the one and only Dinesh D'Souza, former American Enterprise Institute and Hoover Institution Fellow, of course, writer, director, his great film America, and more. So when you are finished, sir, with your confinement situation, are you going back to make another movie?
Steve, absolutely. I'm going to publish a book this year with HarperCollins. It's called Stealing America, and I'm also going to make a big film for next year, and it's going to blow the whistle not just on Hillary, but also kind of a secret history of progressivism and the Democratic Party.
Excellent. Great. Can't wait to see it, read it, and have you back many times for it. Okay. Barack Obama. You know, Iran, it's incomprehensible that the United States would be doing what they're doing with Iran while they ignore, you know, we had Huma Abedini on, whose husband is a pastor who's in an Iranian prison because he's Christian, he's being tortured. We have a military, a Marine member in their prison, a reporter in their prison, and we have a government that's begging Iran to work with us and deal with us and like us, plus the fact that Iran does everything they do. Now we have Cuba, who have people, political prisoners in prison for life and tortured and everything else. And the president has now reached out his hand to that dictatorial thug and taken them off the terrorist list and sat there while he trashed the United States of America at the Latin American gathering the other day. You had him pegged, as some others did, from the get-go, didn't you?
Well, you know, this is a case where you hate to be proven right, but the fact is, it is true. We made predictions at the end of 2016 that Obama would do these kinds of things. In some sense, I've even been surprised that he has outstripped those predictions. I mean, if someone had told us that the United States would be allied or aligned with Iran and with Cuba against our longtime ally Israel, that we would be undermining Saudi Arabia, that we would have collaborated with the ouster of an American ally in Egypt, supported the Muslim Brotherhood, the largest organization of radical Islam. If someone had said this beforehand, everybody would have said this is pure paranoia. Obama's in the mainstream of the Democratic tradition. Clinton would never do this. Obama will never do it. But now we know Obama is doing it. And it's really remarkable that he's doing it with the full collusion of his party.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. The full collusion of his party, no doubt about that. Let me ask you about, I wasn't able to park my car where I usually do because they were making way for a demonstration, one of many I gather around the country. Here we go again. They got these hamburger flippers, and I say that flippantly because I was a hamburger flipper at McDonald's. Started there when I was 16, and you know, now they're demanding $15 per hour in salary, and you know, the media runs with this garbage as if these people are earning their living and supporting their families flipping hamburgers. And you know what? If they are, then they got problems.
You know, Steve, this is just basically what's really going on is something bigger than a debate over McDonald's. It basically has to do with how prices are set in a free market economy. Now, normally, if you want to go, you know, clean somebody's yard, you say, listen, I want to be paid $10 an hour. He says, okay, I'll pay you $8, and you agree on $9. You know, and it's a process of negotiation between two free parties, both of whom have the right to walk away from the deal. So now what we have on, as mainstream democratic liberal doctrine, this idea that the government, the outsider, and if it's not the government, then it's some form of coercive protest, gets to twist the arms of corporations and employers and say, listen, you must pay me this much, or else I'm going to block access to your store, or else I'm going to have the government harass you. This is basically community organizing carried to its extreme. A community organizing that disrupts the normal functioning of a free market system and attempts to sort of bully its way into getting its will.
And you know what's interesting, as we finish up here, Dinesh, we got a couple of minutes. Bill de Blasio yesterday refused to endorse Hillary Clinton because he wants to hear what she has to say about pay equality, not men and women, but that the top 1% are the only ones succeeding. He wants everyone to get a raise. What he wants is communism or Marxism, in my view. That's what he's arguing for, and he's going around the country talking about it.
You know what I don't understand about this whole thing is that the truly disadvantaged, the needy in this country are approximately 5 to 10% of the population. Now, the liberals themselves are 45 to 50% of the population. If those guys want to do all this good, why don't they do it with their own money? There's plenty of resources within liberal America itself to take care of all the liberal projects. I find it odd that they want to superimpose their will on people who are reluctant to participate in their schemes.
And I'll leave you with this. Donald Trump could have given Barack Obama $5 million to do whatever he wanted for his charities or liberal causes or progressive causes simply by releasing his school records, and the media trashed Donald Trump for daring to make that offer instead of trashing Obama for refusing it. Anyway, Dinesh, we'll speak to you soon, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Roger Simon is next, folks. Don't go away.